How long did it take, Jim? Like how long you stayed in this
State.
state?
Yeah, every day till I was 18 years old. So it
Wow.
was my entire childhood. Was just full of doubt, lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, belief in myself. Because I would work hard. Came from immigrant parents that just instilled a level of hard work and discipline, but I didn't do as well as everybody else. So I just felt like there was something wrong with me. When I was 18, I found a mentor that introduced me to the power of the brain, power of our
Wow.
mind, and the power of learning. And so everything changed after that.
But can you tell me about this, like this moment exactly?
Yeah,
How, like, from 5 to 18, that's an extremely long period. And the majority of human beings, let's say, they get adapted.
yeah,
Like from 5 to 18, you got used to it. Okay, I'll live it that way.
yeah,
What other options do I have? And at 18, you got introduced to a mentor that changed everything for you.
yeah. So when I was 18, I was lucky enough to get into a local university. I didn't have great grades, as you can imagine. I took all these classes. I thought freshman meant I could make a fresh start, and I wanted to show the world, show myself that I was worth something, and I actually did worse. And I was at the point where I was ready to quit school because I didn't have the money to be in school. I didn't want to waste the time. The oldest of three siblings, I rather the money go to my brother or sister because they had more potential, I felt. But when I told that to a friend saying I was going to quit school, he's like, because I didn't know how to tell my parents, right? They worked so hard. They sacrificed so much, had so many jobs. We live in the back of a laundromat that my mom worked at. Everybody has their own origin story, right? But I
True.
didn't know how to tell my folks I was going to quit because that was a lot of pressure. And a friend said, "Hey, why don't you get some perspective?" I feel like when we change the place we're in or the people we spend time with, we get a
True.
different point of view. We get to look at something a little differently. Often the problem is not the problem. Often the problem is how we look at the problem, our
True.
attitudes and assumptions around the problem. And he was going home that weekend to visit his family. So he says, "Why don't you come with me, get some time and really think about this? Because it's a big life decision." So I go and visit his folks and his family, and they're pretty well off, had a beautiful home on the water. And the father walks me around his property before dinner and asks me a very innocent question, but it's probably the worst question you could ask me. He says, "How's school?" Right? It's just a normal question you would ask a kid.
True.
And I break down. I start crying profusely in front of this complete stranger because I have so much emotional angst that I've never
True.
expressed. And I tell him my whole broken brain story, ready to quit school. It's not for me. And he says, "Interesting." He's my first mentor. He says, "Well, why are you in school? What do you want to be, do, have, share, contribute to the world?" And I didn't have an answer because no one's ever asked me that. I just thought you go to school because, to get a good
You
job.
must go.
And,
True.
right. And, I didn't have an answer, but when I start to answer him, he pauses, he puts his hand out and says, "Stop." And he pulls out like a journal out of his pocket and he tears out some sheets and makes me write down my dreams, my goals, what I want to be, do, have, contribute. And when the exercise is done, I start folding the sheets of paper to put in my pocket, and he rips them out of my hand and he starts to read them. And imagine this 18-year-old, very insecure kid in front of this complete stranger who's obviously very successful, and he's looking at my dreams, right? My goals that I
True.
haven't shared with anybody. And he's like, "Jim, you're this close to everything on this list." And if you're watching this on video, I'm just spreading my index fingers like a foot apart.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No way, give me 10 lifetimes. I'm not going to crack that list, that bucket list." And he's a very smart man. He takes his fingers and he puts them to the side of my head, meaning what's in between my brain is the key. And he takes me into a room of his home that I've never seen before. It is wall to wall, ceiling to floor, covered in books, like a library in his house,
True.
right?